Well, welcome to the unfinished journey. My name's Grandpa Wally, or Cowboy Grandpa when the grandkids are around. At 76, well, I might not be starting, but I sure ain't ending either. Now, being a storyteller and a singer at campfires is something I did for years. I figure it's time to do a bit more, even if there ain't a campfire. I hope you'll stick around, and I'd sure appreciate you hitting that like button and subscribing. Now, every little bit helps. So, what say we get to it? I call this I Had a Dream in January 2020, and then the world stopped. Part 1. This is the unfinished journey. You ever think about how folks don't tell their stories? I gotta tell you, it bugs me, it's bugged me forever. No one I knew, parents, relatives, no one. No one talked about where they came from and what had happened to them along the way. They were there and that was that. I swear I wonder if they practiced staying in the moment before it ever became popular. Well, that's why I'm here. I'm going to tell my story. You're welcome to listen in. Hell. Truth is, I hope you join in and share your own story. Folks say it's best to start at the beginning, but I'm not gonna. If you told me I'd one day be walking into a room in New York City to audition in front of a bunch of folks from across the country, I wouldn't have believed you. But there I was, the first week of January 2020, and telling myself my dream was coming true. But dreams are funny things. They don't always come true. I tried to settle in as best I could, all the while looking at the bright lights, so I lightly strummed my guitar. My partner looked like she'd done this 1,000 times before, which she probably had. I'd met her through my talent agent, who thought that her and I would make a great couple, doing stories and singing songs, which is something I'd been doing on my own for years. We'd connected while she was on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic, and I was in my palatial Casa de la Tin Can estate in Phoenix, Arizona. Mere weeks later, we'd met for the first time in New York City, and were going to perform for folks looking for entertainment for their schools, colleges, and universities, and God knows what else. Talk about punching above my weight class. I was a cowboy campfire singer and storyteller, doing my thing around Arizona at resorts, cowboy gatherings, and folk festivals. Now there I was, getting ready to get known to a whole bunch of important folks who were going to make a dream of mine come true. I was going to be touring the United States, telling stories, singing songs with a partner, and we were going to encourage others to go for their dreams. 3 weeks later, COVID shut down pretty much everything, and my hopes of realizing my dream were left behind on a stage in New York City. I'm not one of those folks who I hear about that had everything fall apart in their lives and by God they bounced back better than before. Nope. I'm the guy who gets knocked down and decides the floor isn't such a bad place to be. I mean, honestly, there ain't a whole lot farther that I could fall. There was a time when I was an almost somebody. Of course, that was in high school with a total of about 250 kids in it. I got a few letters playing football, basketball, and baseball. For some unknown reason, I got to date some of the prettiest girls around and graduated dead center in a class of 50. So, about the worst day in my life up until then was when I graduated from high school. I'd been an almost someone. I knew that. And now I didn't have a clue who I was going to be. It had been a good life even when two doctors told my mom I was going to die within a year. I was told they played a basketball game in my honor. Now that ain't something that happens every day. Oh yeah, well, the docs were wrong. Turns out I've hung around another 60 years or so. There was a third doc, an old-time family doctor. Took one look at me and said it was the worst case of mononucleosis he'd ever seen. It had been a good life even when Glenn had shoved my face in the mud one night when I was out getting night crawlers for fishing, and a guy I thought was my friend, Dale, well, he did nothing to help me out. Then, to top it off, I had to go home and explain to my mom what had happened, and she got all up on herself and got on the phone and gave Glenn's mom an earful. Righteous indignation was big with my mom, but then she didn't have to go to school and face Glenn the next day. It was a good life until that night, standing there in that auditorium, realizing that nothing would ever be the same again. So I did what any scared 18-year-old would do. Got together with Bob and Scott. Scott had the beer. Went to the graduation party and got everyone hugging and kissing. Then went out with Bob and Scott. Remember, Scott had the beer. Got totally drunk, cursed at the birds as I walked up the driveway with the sun coming up, collapsed on my bed, and the next day left that good life in New Lisbon, Wisconsin for La Crosse, Wisconsin. I'm thinking this is a good time to mention Mary. Remember those pretty girls I mentioned? Well, for my money, she was the best of the bunch. She was the one I could have gone to sleep next to every night and wake up next to every morning. Her auburn hair and blue eyes were only a part of what made her beautiful. Her spirit and soul, well, they took over the minute you stopped gawking at her. She made me cowboy coffee. She made me wish I never had to leave her. She made my life mean more than it ever had. I thought, I thought we'd marry. She said as much, and then we didn't. Maybe we should leave that story for another day. In the end, I tried going to school at the University of Wisconsin La Crosse and failed miserably, or maybe failed spectacularly. I'd never been a good student, told myself I wanted to be an optometrist and head out west to work with folks on reservations. Didn't ask anyone what classes I should take. Found myself in way over my head and did what any self-respecting poser would do. I bailed. But to my credit, I did leave my mark in La Crosse. Well, at my dad's work anyways. I got a job dispatching for the trucking company my father drove for. After I'd been there for a while, every now and then, when a driver was coming to go out on a trip, I'd jump in that big 18-wheeler, drive it to the fuel pumps, and fill the tanks so they didn't have to. I'm pretty sure it wasn't something the company wanted me doing, but that never stopped me. So, one night, being the nice guy I am, I jumped in a truck, headed for the pumps, pulled up in just too far away. The hose wouldn't reach the outside tank. So I figured, I'll pull forward, back up, and get closer. No big deal, right? Well, the thing is, I'm not backing up my car with its rear window and a clear view. There's 40 feet of trailer and no view of what's behind me. Being clueless, I figure I knew where the pumps were when I pulled ahead. They shouldn't have moved on their own, so a slight turn of the wheel and things will be good. Well, my first hint was when I couldn't back up. My second was when the wheels started spinning and nothing happened. No more going back, and worse yet, no going forward either. That bar on the trailer of a big rig is called a Mansfield bar. And yes, I do know why it's called that. A pole anchored in concrete was bent over and the Mansfield bar was now behind it. I bet you've never backed over fuel pumps with an 18-wheeler. I have. One transit station shut down for the foreseeable future. Now my dad, he never said a thing to me about it, but I was told that out on the road he would sometimes tell the story and laugh. For me, decision time loomed big. So I'm figuring advancement within the trucking company was now at best questionable. I'd bailed on college and the draft was in my future, what with me being a prime candidate. The Vietnam War was going full tilt, and the last thing I wanted to do was go over there and sit in some rice paddy ducking bullets. Enter the Navy. Now, until next time, keep your unfinished journey unforgettable. And as I did with every campfire I ever closed, I'll share this as I'm stepping out of here. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. And happy trails to